The massive stone doors had not moved in 12,000 years. Dust covered every surface of the ancient structure, and strange symbols carved into the walls glowed with a faint blue light. Commander Zethral of the Corvani exploration fleet stood before the entrance with his team of 6 aliens from different species across the galaxy. They had traveled for months to reach this forgotten world, following coordinates found in ruins on a dead planet. Zethral was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes. His species had ruled the stars for centuries. They believed they were the oldest civilization in the known galaxy. The temple before them challenged that belief. Carbon dating showed this structure was built when his ancestors were still swimming in primitive oceans. "The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases," said Specialist Mira, a small creature with purple scales and large black eyes. She held a scanning device that beeped rapidly. Whatever is behind these doors is still active after all this time. The team had spent 3 days trying to open the doors. Every method failed. Energy weapons did nothing. Physical force was useless. The stone seemed to absorb everything they threw at it. Then, on the 4th day, the doors simply began to open on their own. A deep rumbling sound echoed across the empty landscape. The ground shook beneath their feet. Slowly, impossibly slowly, the massive doors parted. A bright golden light spilled out from within. The explorers shielded their eyes and stepped back in fear. Zethro felt his heart beating fast. In 300 years of exploration, he had never seen anything like this. The light was warm and inviting, not threatening. It seemed to call to them, welcoming them inside. "Should we enter?" asked Orville, a massive creature covered in thick brown fur. He was the team's security officer, and his hand rested on his weapon. "This could be a trap. We came here for answers," Zethral replied. "We will not leave without them." They walked through the doorway and entered a vast chamber. The ceiling stretched so high it disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered with paintings and carvings that told a story none of them could understand. Strange machines lined the sides of the room, all dark and silent except for small blinking lights. In the center of the chamber stood a massive holographic display. It showed a planet covered in blue oceans and green land. Clouds swirled across its surface. None of them recognized it. "What world is this?" Myra wondered aloud. As if responding to her question, the display changed. It zoomed in on the planet's surface, showing forests and mountains and rivers. Then it showed creatures. They walked on 2 legs and had soft skin with no scales or fur. Their eyes were small, facing forward like predators. They had 5 fingers on each hand and used simple tools. "Primitives," Torval said with a dismissive grunt. "Why would anyone build a temple to honor primitives?" The display continued. It showed these creatures learning to use fire. It showed them building simple shelters. It showed them looking up at the stars with wonder in their eyes. The images moved faster now, showing centuries of progress compressed into moments. Zethral watched in growing amazement. These creatures learned faster than any species he had ever studied. In what seemed like the blink of an eye, they went from caves to cities. They built ships that sailed across oceans. They created art and music and stories. They fought terrible wars, but always rebuilt stronger than before. The display showed them reaching into space. Their first ships were primitive, barely able to leave their own atmosphere. But they kept trying. They failed and died, and still they tried again. Within a few generations, they had bases on their moon and were sending probes to other planets. "Impossible," Myra whispered. Her scanning device had fallen from her hands. "No species advances this quickly. It should take hundreds of thousands of years to achieve spaceflight. These creatures did it in less than 10,000. The hologram changed again. It showed these creatures meeting other species among the stars. At first, the encounters were peaceful. Trade agreements were signed. Knowledge was shared. But then something happened. A great war began. Massive fleets filled with billions of soldiers swept across the galaxy, destroying everything in their path. Zethral recognized the ships. They belonged to an ancient empire that had once ruled this region of space. His people had found their ruins on dozens of worlds. No one knew what had destroyed them. Their civilization had simply vanished overnight, leaving only empty cities and dead ships. The display showed the answer. These small, soft creatures had fought back. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Their technology was inferior. Every calculation said they should have been destroyed in days. But they refused to die. The images showed human soldiers fighting in burning cities. They showed human ships ramming into enemy vessels when their weapons failed. They showed humans hiding in caves and forests, striking at the invaders again and again. They never stopped. They never surrendered. Even when their planet was bombarded from orbit, they continued to fight. "They won," Zethral said, his voice filled with disbelief. "These creatures defeated the Eternal Empire." The hologram confirmed his words. The war lasted for 50 years. Billions died on both sides. In the end, the empire collapsed. Their leader was killed by a human soldier who had crawled through miles of enemy territory with broken legs. The remaining enemy forces fled into the void and were never seen again. But victory came at a terrible cost. The human homeworld was damaged beyond repair. Radiation poisoned the air and water. Their population had been reduced from billions to mere millions. They had won, but they had lost everything. The display showed the humans gathering their survivors and building new ships. They left their dying world and scattered across the stars. They settled on new planets and rebuilt their civilization. They remembered their home, but knew they could never return. Then the hologram showed something that made Zethral's blood run cold. It showed the temple they were standing in. It showed humans building it, working for decades to create this monument. They filled it with their history, their art, their knowledge. Everything they were and everything they had achieved was stored within these walls. "This is their legacy," Myra said softly. They knew they would eventually disappear. They built this place so someone would remember them. The display showed the last humans leaving the temple. They sealed the doors and set the systems to wait. The temple would remain hidden until someone worthy found it. Then it would share the story of humanity with the universe. Zethral walked deeper into the chamber. He found more displays, more machines, more knowledge than his people had gathered in centuries of exploration. The humans had left everything behind. Their science, their medicine, their philosophy. All of it was here, waiting to be discovered. He found a smaller room filled with personal items. There were photographs of smiling faces, worn toys that children had once held, letters written in a language he could not read. These were not just records of a species. These were the memories of individuals, preserved forever in this silent tomb. Torval found the weapons vault. Even after thousands of years, the human weapons were more advanced than anything the Kovani had developed. Particle cannons, gravity bombs, ships that could tear holes in space itself. The humans had created tools of destruction that could have conquered the entire galaxy. Why did they not use these to dominate everyone else? Torval asked. With this power, they could have ruled forever. Zethral found the answer in another display. It showed humans helping other species after the Great War. They shared their food with starving worlds. They rebuilt cities that their enemies had destroyed. They taught their knowledge to anyone who wanted to learn. They had the power to enslave the galaxy, but they chose to heal it instead. They were warriors, Zethral said slowly, but they did not fight for conquest. They fought for survival. When the threat was gone, they put down their weapons and became something more. Mira had found the cultural archives. She played recordings of human music, and the sounds filled the ancient chamber. It was beautiful and sad, hopeful and desperate. The explorers stood in silence and listened to voices that had been silent for millennia. The final section of the temple contained a message. A hologram of a human appeared before them. It was an old female with gray hair and kind eyes. She spoke in a language they could not understand, but the temple translated her words. "If you are seeing this, then our time has passed and yours has come. We do not know who you are or where you come from. We only know that you found this place, and that means you are curious. Curiosity is the greatest gift any species can have. It drove us to the stars, and it will drive you to places we could never imagine." The human smiled, and there was deep sadness in her expression. "We made many mistakes. We hurt each other and hurt our world. But we also loved deeply, dreamed boldly, and never stopped reaching for something better. That is what we want you to remember about us. Not our wars or our weapons, but our hope. We hoped that whoever came after us would be better than we were. We hoped that the universe would be kinder to you than it was to us." She paused and took a deep breath. "Everything in this temple is yours now. Use our knowledge wisely. Learn from our failures. And when you look up at the stars, remember that once there was a species called humans who loved those same stars as much as you do. We are gone, but our dream lives on in you." The hologram faded, and the chamber fell silent. Zethral stood motionless for a long time. He thought about his own people and their endless wars. He thought about the empires that had risen and fallen across the galaxy. None of them had left behind anything like this. None of them had thought to share their gifts with strangers who would come after them. "We need to report this to the council," he finally said. "The galaxy needs to know about this place. About these people. What will we tell them?" Myra asked. Zethral looked at the displays still showing human faces. Children laughing. Lovers embracing. Old friends sharing meals. A species that had fought and suffered and died, but never lost their capacity for kindness. "We will tell them the truth," he said. "We will tell them that the universe is not as empty as we believed. We will tell them that once there were humans and they were magnificent." The team spent weeks in the temple, recording everything they found. They would return to their home worlds and share humanity's story with billions of beings who had never heard the name. The humans had wanted to be remembered, and now they would be. Their legacy would spread across the stars, inspiring species that did not yet exist to reach for greatness. The ancient temple doors remained open, waiting for more visitors to come. The light within still glowed golden and warm. And somewhere in the eternal darkness of space, the spirit of humanity lived on.